Hey friends, I'm Kristina Guerrero, former small-town girl with dreams of Hollywood and red carpets and a belief that I could make those dreams come true. So, I did. But life had more in store for me. From a drinking problem to getting sober, then a breast cancer diagnosis, and finding God. I discovered a strength in me I never knew I had. I wrote a memoir about my life she believed she could. So in each episode, I'm sharing one chapter from my story. From page to podcast, this is She Believed.
Hey, friends, you guys came back. Thank you so much. I am Kristina Guerrero, former TV host, current Uber driver for my children. And I'm just a woman trying to keep it all together with just a cup of coffee because there ain't no booze involved. Yeah, how about that? So last week in episode 2, it was the big believe. I shared how just small town girl, me, chased a big Hollywood dream, and then I actually caught it. And I gotta tell you, that was such a fun trip down memory lane. If you haven't actually listened to it, go back and get all of the good feels because, well, today we are gonna pour a double shot of heavy, right? This week we are gonna get personal, like put the wine bottle down, Guerrero, and have a come to Jesus moment kind of personal. This is episode 3, and it's called The Day I Stopped Drinking. And this one really cuts to the core because it's deeply painful to relive that time in my life, but also it's incredibly empowering because I took my life back. So we are going to start with an excerpt from my memoir, She Believed She Could, and this chapter is called Wasted. I got sober on January 1st, 2022, but before that, I was a drinker. I was a casual drinker, a social drinker, a mommy juice drinker, an ice cold beer drinker, a wine drinker, a whiskey on the rocks drinker, a margarita by the pool drinker, a mimosas at brunch drinker, a binge drinker, a blackout drunk drinker, and a problem drinker. I didn't have some big aha moment about my drinking. The truth is, I knew I'd had a problem for a long time. After more than a few benders, I find myself on the Alcoholics Anonymous website taking their Are You an Alcoholic quiz. Pro tip, if you're Googling, Am I an alcoholic? You probably already know the answer. Is AA for you? Hey, feel free to answer along. Number 1. Have you ever decided to stop drinking for a week or so, but only for a couple of days? Yes. Number 2, do you wish people would mind their own business about your drinking, stop telling you what to do? Yes. Have you ever switched from one kind of drink to another in the hope that this would keep you from getting drunk? Yes. Have you had to have a drink upon awakening during the past year? Yes. Do you envy people who can drink without getting into trouble? Yes. Have you had problems connected with drinking during the past year? Yes. Has your drinking caused trouble at home? Yes. Do you ever try to get extra drinks at a party because you did not get enough? Yes. Do you tell yourself you can stop drinking anytime you want to, even though you keep getting drunk when you don't mean to? Yes. Have you missed days of work or school because of drinking? Yes. Do you have blackouts? Yes. Have you ever felt that your life would be better if you did not drink? Yes. Results. Did you answer yes 4 or more times? If so, damn girl, you need a quiz to tell you that you're an alcoholic? Then you're dumb and an alcoholic. Actually, it reads, results. Did you answer yes 4 or more times? If so, you are probably in trouble with alcohol. Okay, so AA says I'm an alcoholic, and I know deep down I have a problem. So now what? Well, I faced the problem head on. I'm going to look at my addiction straight in the eye and tell it, you messed with the wrong girl. I put on my big girl pants and I began to turn my life around. That's what I could have done. What I did was I took that same quiz a few times over the course of several years, and each time the results came back the same. Did you answer yes 4 or more times? If so, you are probably in trouble with alcohol. I continued to drink, black out, wake up hungover, recover with the hair of the dog, found myself drenched in shame and regret, took the damn quiz, and did the whole drunken song and sloppy dance over and over again. January 1st, 2022, New Year's Day, headache, dry mouth, bloated, puffy, foggy, confused. An invisible but palpable, damp, rank, thick, and heavy cloud of chaos engulfed my home. Empty wine bottles were scattered around the house, a more than half-drunk bottle of whiskey on the kitchen counter, and last night's celebratory dinner plates were crusty and thrown in the sink. The house was dark, dingy, stale, and depressing. Kids are asleep. Who put them to bed? I felt worthless, shameful, defeated, broken. I'd woken up to this kind of morning after mess many times before, but there was something different about this time, and I knew it. How did I let this happen? How could I have been so reckless, so stupid, so selfish? While I was drowning my broken soul in copious amounts of alcohol in the name of fun, I let my guard down and allowed something dark, something evil into my life. Not all at once, of course. Evil doesn't come knocking at your door expecting a hospitable welcome. It had been working its charm on me for decades, but finally made itself at home. At some point along the way, I had indeed welcomed that evil into my house with open arms, like an old friend who seemed to be only looking out for my best interests. And on that New Year's morning, that evil had taken control of my house and my family inside of it. That evil was alcohol. But something changed on that New Year's Day morning as I sat in the house that had been overtaken by this evil storm. The violent wind stopped for just a moment, and I was faced with a choice. Begin to clean up this mess and brokenness I'd created, or grab another drink and brace myself for another storm. The next one maybe not as forgiving as it had been before. I mean, shoot, where do I start with this one, right? That was a hard year. That was a hard time. It was a really, really hard time. And while everything fell apart and broke at that time, there had been cracks. There had been cracks for a long time. So I had my first drink when I was 14, about 14 years old. I was with a girl who was a little bit older than me. I was in the 7th grade, maybe she was in the 8th grade. Gosh, we were so young. And she had hidden a really cheap beer in her closet, and we popped it open and we took a sip, and oh God, it tasted so awful, and it was warm, but it was rebellious, right? It was like, we're not supposed to be doing this. And there was certainly an excitement to it. And, growing up in a really small town, I mean, I guess just growing up in general, but I can only speak for my small town, there wasn't a whole lot for us to do. And so, we found fun in drinking. And so it wasn't uncommon in junior high and certainly in high school, right, that I went to parties where there was a lot of really cheap alcohol, kegs of beer, generic vodka, Zimas, Sainides, all of those really terrible drinks for you. And that's just what we did. So it was just very much the culture growing up in a small town. We drank a lot. We hid out in alfalfa fields and hoped we didn't get busted by the cops. So that's the kind of upbringing that I had. And so when I went off to college, that definitely transferred over. It was very much a rite of passage. I was in college. We were still drinking crappy beer and generic vodka and going to parties, frat parties, and drinking entirely way too much, being hungover for days at a time. And this is when I was, in my late teens, early 20s. And when you should be able to metabolize alcohol a little bit more, I was doing what everybody else was doing, right? Well, Kristina, if everybody else was jumping off a cliff, would you do it too? I mean, is there cheap booze involved? Then yeah, probably. And then I moved to California and lived in LA and lived in Hollywood, and that certainly transferred over. I think back to that time and it really kind of being a part of my environment and really just being a play hard, work hard situation. I was still very focused on school. I still had 2 to 3 jobs at a time. I was interning. I was working at a bar, but I was making rent. I was still making good grades. So alcohol just was a pastime. It was just something that we did. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And so when does drinking alcohol go from fun rite of passage to a problem. But I would say binge drinking, as much as I was drinking, certainly was never shouldn't have been a rite of passage. There was nothing okay about that. I put myself in some very, very precarious situations. And yet it never dawned on me that alcohol was a problem. And so as I got into my late 20s and early 30s, I continued to drink a lot. I was very social. I went up to Hollywood parties, open bars, clubs. I was making money. And the idea of being able to drink as much as I wanted almost kind of fit this idea of what I thought fun and carefree and youthfulness and living the life, living the dream kind of all represented to me. It all went hand in hand. It just never dawned on me that I should stop drinking. It often dawned on me that I should cut back on my drinking, that maybe I shouldn't drink so much, that maybe that one time got away from me, but I would be better next time. And those moments never seemed to let up. You know, I'd have a win, right? So I'd be like, oh, I drank too much last weekend. This weekend, I'm going to be better. And then I would be better. You know, I'd only have, one glass of wine and I'm like, see, I'm totally in control. Or I wouldn't drink for the one weekend. I'd be like, I totally got this. This is not a problem. And then I would just fall back into those old habits again. I did go see a therapist one time and I shared with her that I thought I had a drinking problem. And we had a couple of sessions, and at the end of those sessions, she's like, I don't know that you have a drinking problem, but I think that you have a social anxiety issue. And that was really interesting for me because I see myself and think of myself as a very social person, right? Like I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love being chatty. It's just who I am by nature. And when she said that, I was kind of taken aback because social anxiety didn't really seem to resonate with me. But then what made sense to me was that I did have social anxiety. I did feel uncomfortable in certain situations or around certain people. And in order to get me past that uncomfortableness or that awkward feeling of not feeling good enough, not feeling funny enough, not feeling witty enough, not feeling enough, I would just drink. I would drink to take those inhibitions away. So without those little voices saying, this is awkward, this is uncomfortable, you're not good enough, you're not funny enough, you're not interesting enough. Without those little voices, oh man, I was the life of the party. I loved it. I loved being around people. I loved talking to people. And without that alcohol, I realized just how uncomfortable I was in social situations. And so I thought, yes, you're absolutely right. I don't have a drinking problem. I have a social anxiety issue, and I'm going to work on that. And I didn't work on that. I just continued to drink because I figured, well, drinking isn't the problem. Social anxiety is the issue. So I should work on that. And while I'm working on that, I'm just going to go ahead and have a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine. And I was so unaware of my drinking. I would finish 2 glasses of wine and look at that empty glass and just be like, did I just have that glass of wine as I'm pouring another, or as I'm opening another bottle or grabbing another beer? I was so unaware of how much I was drinking that it would just get away from me. There is this point when you're drinking where all of your senses and all of your decision making is off, right? So sober, you would be like, oh, I don't need another drink. But when you're drinking, that little voice is saying, oh yeah, have another drink. This feels good. It's like a dopamine hit that just says, oh yeah, this feels good. Without it, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Without it, you're going to feel awkward. You're having a great time. Why stop? Keep going. This is so fun. And that's really where I found myself. And so, like I said in my story, like I said in the excerpt, this evil was just kind of slowly entering its way into my life and whispering things to me like, you need me. You're not interesting enough without me. You're a buzzkill. Nobody wants to be around sober Kristina. and I believed it. I bought into the lie. These are all things I can see in retrospect, but at the time, I was so in it, and I was so consumed by alcohol being my homie, right? My crutch, that I couldn't imagine a life without it. Even when I knew it was so bad, like even when I knew it was terrible for me and I was making terrible choices and regrettable, shameful choices, it never dawned on me that I should stop drinking. It was like I should cut back on my drinking. And sure, it started out fun and it started out social and it started out casual and it started out innocent, a rite of passage. But slowly it started to really break me. And even though I had my come to Jesus moment of like, what am I doing? Not just to me, but to my children, especially to my children. Like that was like 20 years in the making to get from here to there. So alcoholism is patient. It's very patient. But leading up to that kind of fateful night, it had been bad for a long time. I had been bad for a long time. I had been broken for a very long time. Alcohol was certainly a part of that brokenness, but I was going through a lot of my own stuff, a lot of things, a lot of trauma that I had pushed way down, that I had compartmentalized, really kind of started coming to the surface. My issues of motherhood and career woman and my marriage and friendships, and it was all just so broken. I was just so broken. Gosh, I was so broken. I can look back now and see and recognize that I was so broken that I used alcohol to numb it. And the more I hurt, the more I drank. And then the more I drank, the more I hurt. And so it was just this cycle that was never ending. And the year leading up to my sobriety, there were more and more nights and days, day drinking, right? Where I was making choices that were not just hurtful to me, but hurtful to my family and hurtful to my friends and hurtful to my children. And I couldn't stop. I just didn't know how to stop. I did not know how to stop. And that's kind of what alcohol and alcoholism does to you. It makes you feel trapped. It makes you feel like you're nothing without it. And so as those situations and those circumstances were getting more and more frequent, I knew that I had to make a change. Never quit drinking, right? That wasn't the change I was looking for, but certainly like I got to cut back. And so I had already decided that I was going to do a dry January. I was trying to get some friends on board, and I was going to do a dry January because I knew it had gotten to a breaking point. I knew that I was already at the tip top. You got to cut back. But because I had already decided that I was going to start dry January, well, shoot. I'm like, all right, well, then let's give it all we got, December. Let's go all in. So January, dry January, I was forced into it. I was pushed into it. I was thrown into it. I was like beat down into it. I was broken. I was full of shame. I didn't know how to get out of it, you know? And I prayed about it. I just like, dear God, please help me. I, on my knees in tears, crying, please God, take this away from me. I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't ever want to want it anymore. And this interesting thing came over me. And I saw something that I had never seen before. It was like a veil had been lifted. And I saw alcohol and my alcohol addiction for what it really was, which was an evil darkness that tried to come in and take me out. Right? Because before that, shoot, alcohol was the homie. Alcohol was the buddy. He like always came through. Jack, Julio, always came through for me. Always set me right. Always got me into the party mood. Always like took away that pain. Always was like, girl, I got your back. It's all good. And it was like this veil was lifted of like this thing that had come in to take me out, that had told me that I was not good enough, that I was nothing without it, that I was not funny, that I was not interesting, that nobody wanted to be around me. And I was pissed. I was mad. I was angry. I was just like livid, like betrayed. I felt betrayed. I was like, wait a second. I thought you had my back. I thought you got me. You tried to take me out. And not only did you try to take me out, you tried to take my kids. And here's why I know that, because I saw the trauma that alcoholism inflicted on me as a little girl and my siblings, because my dad was an alcoholic. And that took us all out. His alcoholism took all of us out and left us with trauma. So it wasn't just a him problem. That trickled down to us. Wounds and pains and trauma that I'm still trying to untangle to this day. I'm like, you tried to take my kids. And I was pissed. And so what happens when you feel betrayed by somebody? You don't want to see them. You don't want them anywhere near you. You tried to hurt my kids. You tried to take my family. I don't want you anywhere near me. To see alcohol, to see bottles of wine, to see bottles of whiskey, to see beer bottles, physically made me sick. Because I was pissed. I was pissed. I recognized that I was in a volatile relationship. I was in a toxic relationship with alcohol. Like, have you ever been in a toxic relationship with a person, boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife or whatever, work person, and then they try to pull you back in and you start thinking, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. You know, oh, well, that one time I was pretty cool. They were so cool when he did this. They were so sweet. And then you start thinking like, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. And those moments would happen. But I never had the urge to go back. I would have those thoughts, but I never had the urge to go back. And I'd like to say that I did it, that I had the willpower, that I had the strength, that I had the grit, tenacity to just be like, I'm done. But I stand here, I sit here before you, and I tell you that was by the grace of God. I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed, take it away. And it was gone. It was gone. I never wanted it again. I thank God for that. I thank God for that. I didn't do AA. I didn't do the 12 steps. The 12 steps. I didn't go to AA. My AA was prayer in church. And it was the first time I surrendered to God. I surrendered in a way like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. And I need you to help me fix it. I don't have the power to do this. You know, they say that quitting is not the hard part. The hard part is dealing with feelings that come with quitting. And boy, is that true. I didn't realize how much I was numbing until the pain of every emotion that I felt was so obvious. I didn't realize that when things got just a little bit uncomfortable, or there was just a little bit of conflict, or I felt just a little bit overwhelmed, how quickly I would go to grab a drink to numb that. Oh, look, it's gone. Don't feel it anymore. And then there it was, all of it was there. My grandma died, my dog died. And I was like, how do you do life without alcohol? I mean, genuinely, I was like, how do you do life without alcohol? How do you go to a baseball game without alcohol? How do you go to happy hour without alcohol? How do you hang out with people without alcohol? How do you manage stress without alcohol? I had no idea. Like, I was like a new person in a new land, in a new world. And I was like, I don't have the tools. I don't have the tools. My tool used to be alcohol. This is my superpower. And I don't have the tools to manage this. And so, that was really hard. That was really challenging. And I had to really dig deep to be able to process my feelings and my emotions in a way that I probably have never had to do. And that was certainly not easy. But man, I will tell you that the work to get through it, to get through that valley and then come out the other side and then see that beautiful horizon is worth it. It is breathtaking. It is empowering. I'm a better person for it. I'm a better mother for it. It's my kids. I know you're supposed to stay sober for yourself, but I stay sober for my children. I stay sober for my children because that's a generational addiction that I get to break for them. Now, I want to be fair for anybody who's listening that I am not here to judge anybody's decision. I still know and love people that drink, and I want to be very careful about not coming off as self-righteous or this is the way to do it or any sort of judgment, because certainly that is not what I'm here for, and I have no room to judge. And there are people who don't have a problem with alcohol, right? Who can have a glass of wine or two and enjoy a nightcap or go out socially. That's just not me. I watched a movie recently, and it's, these 50 somethings, and, they're letting loose. They're at this resort and they decide to start taking shots and the music is going and everyone's just like letting loose and just being a little bad and having a good time. And I just was kind of like, oh, that's cool. That looks fun, right? I'm like, oh man, I'll never do that again. Not in a longing. That's not in a long like, oh man, I wish I could. It's like, oh yeah, that is a thing that seems fun, right? And at the end of the scene, after they're completely shit-faced wasted, they start saying things they don't mean. They're just kind of aggressive. Everybody wakes up hungover. They all look like shit. And I'm like, that's the truth, right? It's kind of like, oh yeah, we did have a good time. Oh, but what about that one time when we started out having a good time and then I embarrassed myself in front of everybody and passed out in front of my kids, right? Oh, that's the other side of the coin. I felt good about that. Not for them, not for anybody who goes through that or whatever, but like I was like, that's why I have made this decision. So a couple of things that helped me, if you're sober curious or you're thinking maybe this would be a place for you to like jump in and maybe get some help. While I didn't do AA, I think a community is super helpful. For me, I found God, I found prayer, and I found church that gave me a purpose and a surrender to give it to God. I read a book, I listened to a book called The Easy Way to Stop Drinking. That book completely changed everything for me. And I drank copious amounts of LaCroix in a wine glass. And I'll tell you, I don't know what it is. It's some sort of like mind thing, right? Is that I put a little LaCroix in a wine glass. All of a sudden, I'm being social. I'm having a good time. And nobody's asking me, why aren't you drinking? Are you pregnant? No, I'm 45, lady. I had a drinking problem. That is kind of fun. It's not fun. It's just awkward. People are like, you don't drink? Why don't you drink? What's wrong? I just don't drink. Why? What's wrong? Why don't you drink? Because I'm a former alcoholic. Oh, and then it gets awkward. And I'm like, well, you asked. It's the most empowering thing I've ever done. And I overcame breast cancer. Getting sober is the most empowering thing that I have ever done in my life. I'm better for it. My skin looks great. My liver thanks me. I haven't woken up hungover in over 2 years. Sunday mornings are filled with coffee. I don't drunk text anybody. I don't say anything I don't mean. I don't forget things anymore. I don't have to apologize the next morning. I used to be really hard on her, Kristina with the drinking problem. I used to be really hard on her. How did you not know better? And I give her grace now. And she was going through some stuff. She was walking through some really, really hard things. She did the best that she could with what she had. She certainly didn't want to disappoint anybody. And so I give her grace. Letting go of alcohol wasn't just about quitting drinking. It was about choosing myself and my sanity and my family. Sobriety cracked me wide open, man. But it also kind of put me all back together into somebody that I recognized. Next week, though, I'm still getting more real and what it was like to be a mom during those years. Talking about mommy guilt and the shame that is followed by every single hangover. Friends, if today's episode spoke to you, please send it to a friend who might need a little hope right now and maybe a little honesty, because you are walking with somebody who totally gets it. So thank you guys so much for allowing me to be vulnerable with you and, gosh, sharing my deepest, darkest secrets. But man, when I talk about my highest of highs and my lowest of lows, getting sober is definitely one of my highest of highs. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hey, you're still here. Man, your dedication to get to the end, that's inspiring. I'd be so grateful if you hit that follow button and share this episode. And if you really loved it, hey, leave a review, because validation is my love language. Until next time, in the immortal words of Journey, don't stop believing.